Hey, what's up you guys? So today I want to discuss A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which is the first book in the CURSEBREAKERS trilogy by BRIGID Kemmerer. So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling centered around a prince who lives in a fantasy world called Emberfall, and once a season he has to go to the human realm and pick someone mortal like from our world and take them and try to make them fall in love with him, or else he turns into a beast and goes on a bit of a murderous rampage. So overall I did enjoy this book. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I do think it had some issues that I wasn't as big a fan of, and it was not necessarily the most well-written book that I've ever read, but it was still definitely a fun read. And it probably wasn't the most original Beauty and the Beast retelling that I've ever read, but it was still a nice, fun, fresh take on the story. So let's start off with the things that I liked. So this book is filled with some great funny moments that I just really enjoyed. Like, I was honestly laughing in so many different scenes in this book, and that's probably my favorite aspect of this book, was just the fact that it was able to make me laugh. I really loved Lilith in this book as well. I thought that her motives were really well defined, and I liked that her motives felt so reasonable, and even though she wasn't a great person by any means, she did have interesting characteristics and she had really good characterization, and I just felt like she was understandable in why she was the way that she was, because her backstory was just really interesting, and I really want to get some more of that in the books to come in the rest of this series. I don't know if we will, but we shall see. And she really just felt like a good villain. I really liked the representation in this book as well, especially with the cerebral palsy, because in fantasy novels you don't get a lot of that. I remember watching something recently about physical deformities and like physical ailments and stuff in fantasy, and how that's always looked on like a bad thing. So I liked having it in here as it not really being a bad thing or a good thing. It's just an aspect of her character and something that she's had to live with and deal with. I also really liked the character of Gray. He was probably my favorite character overall in the story. I really loved how he developed, and I loved his relationship with Ren, and I loved how he developed a relationship with Harper. And honestly, I kind of preferred him with Harper, and I'm kind of upset that Ren was the main love interest. I also really loved how exciting the ending was. I did think it was a little unpolished. There were some things that I had issues with, but I did like that it was really exciting, and I liked how it really amped up. So I just thought that the end was really fun. So now let's talk about some of the things that I did not like as much about this story. I was not the biggest fan of Ren and Harper, like their characters. I thought that Ren was a little on the boring side. I thought that Harper, she was almost a bit of a Mary Sue, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that. She was just too good at things, and everyone liked her, and I didn't get why. And I thought it was also kind of slow in the beginning of the story, especially in regards to the fact that like for the first 200 pages, you're literally going over the course of like a couple days, and I'm like, can we go a little faster? Like, can we just start to establish things a little bit faster? We don't have to show every detail of every moment that's going on. And because of that, also the romance felt like it came on kind of quickly, because you do start to see those romantic threads start to get woven in there in those first few days that she's there, and I'm like, is that realistic? As I said before, I honestly liked Gray better as a love interest, just because I didn't really like Ren's character that much. I feel like he lacked a lot of depth that I was wanting. I feel like we don't really understand how he changed as a result of the monster that happened, because Gray seems to think that he never changed, which leads me to believe that he never changed. So I just thought that was not that great of a storytelling detail, and I didn't like how boring he was. So I'm hopeful that in the next few books he can get a little bit more depth, a little bit more of a character arc, because I honestly didn't think that he had much of one in this story. I didn't really like the fantasy world overall either. It didn't feel very fleshed out or very well described or very original. It just felt like another fantasy world that you could drop any characters into. It didn't feel specific to the story, which is not something that I really like. I really love when my worlds are fleshed out and they're very integral to the story. So like Throne of Glass is a great example. The world is very important in the story overall. Like, it is such an aspect of the story, is the history of the world. Throne of Glass is a great one where the world is important. Lord of the Rings, like in all of these great epic fantasy series, the world is so important and integral to the story, and in this one it just didn't feel that way. There were very loose threads just connecting the story to the world that I wished had been a little bit more intermeshed, because I felt like that was missing for me. And then another thing that felt kind of unfleshed out was everything that happened with Jake. I just feel like we didn't get enough there for me to feel like it was well developed. I feel like we got very few scenes with him, and I feel like he didn't change, and I'm really confused as to what actually was going on with him, which I wish had gotten more fleshed out. I wish that he had been a little bit more of an important character, so I'm hopeful that we'll get some more fleshing out there with the rest of the series again. So I think that this book has set up a lot of good things for the rest of the series as far as development is concerned, because there are a lot of things left to be developed, but we just have to get there. So those are kind of my general thoughts and feels on this book. So if you don't want to be spoiled, I would leave now, because I'm just going to launch into my spoilery scene thoughts. So let's just get into it and talk about some of the scenes. This book starts off with Harper getting taken to Emberfall, which I thought was a great scene overall. I did really like it. I just wish that after that had happened, we'd gotten some other things to happen a little bit quicker than they did, because Harper started trying to escape multiple times, which I thought was pretty great, pretty realistic. The only problem is there was like too much time devoted to each escape attempt that she did. And like, I'm putting escape in quotation marks here because she wasn't really being held captive. I just wish that there had been a little more communication there in the beginning. I think that it made Harper just a little bit annoying that she just kept trying to like leave and not talk to these people when like clearly something has happened. I don't know, it just felt like she wasn't aware of the fact that like she wasn't in the real world anymore. Like, I think that she was just confused and I didn't like it. So I did like some of her escape attempts. I just didn't like how many there were and how repetitive it started to feel. And so in one of her escape attempts, she winds up at an inn and she trains there with Gray. And this was when I started to like Gray a lot better than Ren, because in this moment we got so much more development with him than we ever got with Ren in any of the earlier bits of the story. And Ren is one of the people telling the story. So I thought that was so great and I just loved it. And it really made me ship her and Gray and not her and Ren. Like, from that moment on, I was like, ew, Ren, gross, I don't want him. I really hope he doesn't wind up being like the main love interest, because like, I'm so much more here for Gray. Like, Gray seems so much more interesting. He seems like he's got such a more interesting backstory, but we shall see what happens with that. And then another great Harper and Gray moment was when they were playing cards, and I just thought that was so fun. I love playing cards personally. It really just reminded me of playing cards with my family, so I just loved it. And then Ren's reaction was so annoying, and I was like, ew, like this was another reason why I didn't like Ren, because like this was not a positive reaction. He was very jealous for no reason, like he had no ties to her yet. It'd literally been like 2 days, and I just did not like how he reacted to that. I thought that it was just so lame. So yeah, I did like that discussion though after that about Ren kind of being a strategist and how that was part of his problem. He was over planning, and you can't really over plan love. Like, love happens, you can't really plan for it, and I did like that discussion. So then after this, Ren starts to kind of let people into the castle, and he does this because Harper was really good at lying, which is what started to make me feel like she was a Mary Sue, because like that was just really convenient. And every moment where like she was in any amount of danger, it was just very conveniently she was no longer in danger, because boom, there are other people there to save her, or she is somehow able to like get on a horse and save herself or whatever. And I was just like, this is not good. Like, it doesn't build any anticipation for me. I'm not really concerned about her because she's managed to get out of all of these ridiculous circumstances without much harm to begin with. So I was just never really scared for her. And so when she did that whole like lying thing about being the Princess of DC, I thought that was pretty cool, pretty funny. But I also was like, why are these people believing you? Like, what? You've given them no details, you've given them nothing, you've shown nothing, like you've done nothing, and they all believe you for some reason, and I didn't get it. I don't know, maybe I'm just cynical, and so that's why I don't believe people, but like, I'm not a trusting person. So at one point, Harper finds Lilith with Ren when Lilith is like torturing Ren, and Harper's reaction was interesting. She, in my opinion, like, she just forgot everything that she wanted and was like, oh no, gotta save this person, which is noble and great. But also, I didn't like it. It was just another scene that I didn't really like. I didn't think that it developed her character further. I didn't think it developed Ren's character further. I think it just showed them being who they had been the entire time. And I wish that we had seen some actual character development or an actual like romantic, intimate moment. But I feel like we didn't get that. I feel like it didn't strengthen their relationship at all, because nothing changed as a result of that moment. And that was just something that frustrated me, because I mean, I think Ren was starting to develop feelings feelings at that point, but like regardless of whether or not she came in and did what she did, like he wouldn't have developed feelings any faster. Like, I don't know, it just felt weird. It just felt like nothing really came of it, and I didn't like that. Okay, so eventually Harper is able to go back to DC, which I really liked. I really liked her conversation with Gray. I liked how she asked him to come back for her, and I liked how she waited for him, and Jake thought she was crazy, and Noah thought she was crazy, and then Gray shows up and like saves all of them. I just thought that was such a great moment, and I feel so bad for Noah. Like Noah, I want to see him develop some more in the next books, because like he seems like he could be interesting, because he has no reason to be involved in any of this stuff. Like he's just a doctor. I do feel like it was kind of convenient that he's a doctor, but that's neither here nor there. It's kind of okay, because that's not as big of a deal to me. But yeah, I liked that Noah got brought into the story. I liked that Jake got taken to Emberfall, and I liked Jake's reaction. I liked how confused Jake was. I liked how Jake was kind of an asshole. Like I'm super pumped to get to know Jake better. So when Gray met back up with them, I thought that moment was super great. I absolutely loved Noah's reaction to it. Again, Noah, we're just gonna see some great stuff from him, I think, in the next few books, because like he was doing good in this one. So then we have Beast Ren, and he is kind of just like terrorizing the place. I liked Beast Ren in this moment because we got to see kind of a different side of him, clearly. But what I didn't like was when he was able to kind of recognize Gray and Harper was able to calm him. Like, I just thought that was convenient. And it didn't make sense to me, like, if he's lost, like, all of who he is, like, how come he still has those feelings of, like, love for her, you know? Like, it didn't seem to match the story's, like, magic that he had set up. And I didn't like that, really. And I just thought that it was too convenient. I thought that it was too predictable. I wish that had been done in a more intricate way. I wish it had been done in I don't know, just a different way where it didn't feel so convenient. It didn't feel unearned, because she didn't do anything other than show up, which again goes back to her kind of being like a Mary Sue, was that she just showed up and everything got better, but she didn't do anything. Okay, so Ren is able to beat back the guys because Harper is able to make him. It's fine. But then we get Ren back, and we get Gray gone, and we get Lilith dead. So I loved how Ren wasn't sure if the reason he turned back into a human was because Lilith died or because Harper loved him. I like that leaves some development to be had for their relationship, especially given the fact that the relationship needs so much more development. And I like that Gray's gone. I like that we're gonna have some interesting stuff go on with Gray. I am really excited for the next book to see what happens with Gray, because since he is the actual like heir to the throne, or like one of the heirs, or whatever, he's a son, he's a prince. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see what happens with Gray, especially given the fact that I like Gray so much more than Ren at this point. I'm so hopeful to have more development with these characters. I'm also hopeful for the writing style to hopefully improve and get a little bit more intricate and not so just straightforward. And I'm so hopeful that the pacing will get better. I know that a lot of people love this series, so I'm just hopeful that I will start to love it too, because this first book, it was just okay. Like, it wasn't bad. I did enjoy it. I just didn't love it as much as I was expecting to. So anyways, if you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. Comment down below your thoughts on A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Please don't spoil me for the next book. I haven't read it yet. I will see you in my next video. I post videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. Bye!